Go for it.
Welcome back. I'm Kaila Henry.
I'm Kathy Zalewski.
And we're with Realty One Group in Bozeman, Montana. Today we are talking about inspections and appraisals and what that looks like from the seller's view. So Kathy, how do you like to prep your sellers for home inspections and appraisals?
Yeah, so a couple things I do. For the home inspection part, we kind of talked about this in prepping your home for sale. I try and make sure that my sellers understand what the inspector is going to be doing, what they're looking for, places that they're going to want to get access to, and so forth. So like we talked about, getting all your stuff under the sink in like a tote so it can be easily removed, making sure that there's clear attic access or crawl space access. They're going to go through and they're going to test every outlet that they can see. They need to be able to see at least one outlet in every room. Make sure that they understand that. So clearly this is less stressful in a vacant house, but when you're still living there, it might require rearranging a little bit of things. You do want to make it easy for the inspector. They do have to do this as part of their job. So I try and prep them for where that inspector is going to go.
And something I would add for specifically vacant houses, make sure obviously all utilities need to be on.
Yeah.
So if you've turned the water off, something I don't recommend for a vacant home anyways, it has to be on for the home inspection. So make sure that the house is ready to be inspected and they have access for everything. Same thing, make sure all your light bulbs are changed. I've seen, buyers freak out over potential electrical issues. The light bulb just needed to be changed. That's often the case. But again, getting ahead of those things can really put buyers at ease when they're going into an inspection, because they're likely as nervous as you are.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of appraisal, and this happens kind of at the onset during the listing process, but I want my sellers to help me come up with a list of all the upgrades and updates that they've done since they've owned the home, whether that's a new roof or sometimes it can be like, oh, well, we replaced all the ceiling lights with ceiling fans. That's a big deal, and it would go unnoticed by an appraiser. I have worked in several different markets, and there are certain times and certain market conditions that make the appraisers start looking at these things very closely. And quite frankly, although they will tell you that it's not true, different types of loans make the appraisers look at different things more with a keener eye, let's just say. So the more ammo that I can have to give that appraiser in terms of what you've done to the home, in terms of maintenance and upgrades and updates, the better chance we have of hitting that price that we've got on the contract. I always meet the appraiser at the home with a packet that has that list of upgrades, our contract. There are some industry jargon and comps that we use to price the home initially. Any most recent comparable sales I put in there so that the appraiser's got all the things that they need to be able to do their job in one nice packet. Hopefully that is favorable. I do like to let them do their job. One thing I'll say, if a seller needs to be home while the appraiser is there, please, 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 God, please just get out of the way. Let the appraiser do their job. They can be very sensitive. And we know that a lot is riding on what they choose, their opinion, and what they choose to put on that appraisal at the end. So it is good to give them some space. What I try and give them is just the factual information that helps provide value to the home. And that includes things that you help me prepare in terms of updates and upgrades.
Yeah. That's what I got.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, okay. So then I would say that you asked how we make them prepare. I would say, what do you do, Kaila, to help minimize what will likely be the most anxiety-producing portion of the home sale process?
Yeah. So, home inspections obviously can bring up a lot of emotions. It can feel like somebody's nitpicking your home that you love dearly and have spent probably a lot of time and money keeping up or maintaining. So again, trying to remove some of the emotion and understanding that the inspector is just there to do their job, which is to look at it objectively. And buyers, I will say most often they understand. They've lived in homes before. They know that no home is perfect, and that's how good inspectors and good real estate agents will share, right? We're not expecting perfection, but they are going to look over some big things. And so to me, how I recommend you as a seller to prep yourself for it is just know that things will probably come up and get called out with. We can get through it, right? Nothing's rarely a deal breaker so long as we're negotiable. And so just being prepared to just kind of see what they ask for and see what somebody might need. And yeah, I think just kind of trying to take it as it comes at us.
Right. And, I think one thing, and I'm sure you tell your sellers this as well, the inspection report can be anywhere from 40 to 120 pages.
Yeah.
And that's a lot. There's going to be a whole bunch of stuff that has been called out on that inspection report that the buyers will have no intention of asking you to repair or fix. So
hopefully, we can never guarantee, but hopefully, I would say most common.
I think the way that inspection reports work here in Montana, it might be good to note that a buyer does not need, nor will they usually provide the entire inspection report to the seller in this state. They will provide the portions that point towards the repairs that they want done, that the items that were not right that they want corrected. So that kind of alleviates some of the issues of getting that whole 120-page report and thinking that you have to fix all of those things. In Montana, they make it much more concise for the seller. And so I think the other thing that I always tell my sellers is, you don't know who's going to buy your house. There might be a roof problem, but the buyer might be a roofer. And now it becomes no problem whatsoever. Mm-hmm. So you got to keep an open mind, keep breathing.
And I think being willing to, maybe be open to some concessions if it seems warranted. Doesn't mean you're fixing everything or providing them with a brand new house when your home is not in fact brand new. So just understanding that, again, it's all a negotiation, right? Yeah. And so it's our job to help you understand, number one, what is the market doing and what is the market dictating with what buyers are asking for. We can help you understand, well, this feels like it's excessive, or this feels more normal, or wow, feels like we really got away, this feels great. I think just kind of being able to suss those things out, that's part of our job. And then, part of your job is being willing to investigate and consider things, right? To consider.
I don't know if it's your next question, but no. I was going to say, so some common things that come up on, and I'm sure Kaila, you can agree that some common things that come up on inspection reports here in the state of Montana are mold and radon. Mm-hmm. And mold is very scary sounding, radon too. But because Kaila and I have done work here for years, those are not deal breakers. While those sound very scary and they are health and safety issues, and a buyer will expect a seller to make either a concession or correct the problem, radon can change over the course of years. I think you take that, Kaila, because you have more experience.
So radon to me, let's say you bought your home 5 years ago and you did have radon tested for, right? It came back low. There's still a possibility that it could now be high because plate tectonics will shift where the radon gas is coming up from the bedrock. So not something we can control. We have both worked with a number of very qualified and really reputable contractors that can help us either mitigate it or, again, just give the buyer a credit to handle those things. Same thing with mold. It can sound really scary, but fortunately our climate is very dry, so it's not usually rampant. It is confined to one area because of improper ventilation, a water leak, something along those lines. Again, you might not even be aware of it because it just was just aren't looking around like that.
Right.
Totally normal. But again, something that's pretty easily remedied. Might cost some money and might take some scheduling, but don't let those things deter you.
If you chose to stay in the home and were aware of mold in it, you would have it fixed for yourself.
Yeah.
So the fact that the buyer will likely expect you to fix it, mitigate it, or give a credit in the amount that it would take to mitigate it shouldn't come as a surprise.
Any health and safety items, I think, are something you should be prepared to negotiate on. And then to me, functioning systems, right? So we want to make sure that the systems function. I had a seller one time say they never used their oven, so it didn't matter that it didn't work. And I said, well,
it might matter to
any buyer is probably going to want a working oven on their $700,000 home. So they repaired the oven, and that was what they were prepared to do. So just kind of keeping in mind, again, seeing it from the other side a little bit is important.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
How often do you find that a property doesn't appraise for the purchase price, Kathy? And what tools do you have to maybe counter that or do something about it?
Well, so Kayla's asking me this question because I have worked in lots of different markets, and in Bozeman, generally properties will appraise at the purchase price, and that's been my experience here as well. But in different parts of the country and in different types of markets, when I worked in Arizona, very frequently we would have properties not meet the purchase price. So what do we do to counter that? As I said kind of earlier, hey, we want to make sure that the appraiser is aware of all upgrades, updates, and maintenance items that have been taken care of in your home, in your period in the home. The other thing is specific to VA loans, there is something called a Tidewater that the lender must issue in advance, that gives me as a selling agent and the seller the opportunity to kind of help them correct their appraisal by giving them that information, whether it's new comparable sold properties or the updates and upgrades and other things that the sellers have spent money on to maintain the home that might make the property more valuable than, say, another one down the street that they're comparing it to that didn't have those updates and upgrades. So we do get a chance to kind of go back and forth with the appraiser to help if there is a problem or a low appraisal. But the best way to prevent that is just to get all of that information up front in terms of the repairs and maintenance work that you've done on the home.
And I think it goes back to also selecting a listing price, right? We don't want to overprice your home because we don't want to
have an appraisal.
And maybe you do find a buyer that's willing to pay for it. Sometimes that can work, but we do need to keep in mind that if there's a loan lender involved, there could potentially be an appraisal. I would say most likely be an appraisal required.
Right.
And we don't want that to be an issue kind of at the 13th hour, right? We don't want this to be something, sometimes, I know that sometimes people are like, well, we'll just split it. Maybe the buyer's willing to pay an extra $5,000 and the seller's willing to negotiate down $5,000 and that gets your $10,000 difference. But not always, right? I think sometimes buyers are like, I'm not willing to overpay for this. Your home isn't that special, right? So really being mindful about that almost from the very beginning and making sure that we have comps that justify and support the price as well.
Well, and again, with certain types of loans, that appraisal stands with that house. So moving forward, let's say that buyer doesn't want to come up with an extra $5,000.
Yeah.
It's like an inspection item. It becomes at that point that you have been made aware that your home is worth this much according to an appraiser who is licensed by the state. Either you're willing to accept that moving forward, or you're not, and then you have to pay for a different kind of buyer. So that's just something to be aware of, and a good agent will tell you that when that happens. But the best way to prepare and avoid that is to have that list of updates and upgrades. What do you got?
In your experience, when a big ticket item does come up on inspection, does the deal always fall apart?
Thank you. I would say never, or at least not if I'm doing my job. I think that the big ticket item, it means different things to different people. It depends on whether you're selling a $3 million house. A big ticket item there is like, hey, that barn is falling down. Okay, that's a big ticket item. But if you're, selling your first home that was a condo and it's $325,000, a big ticket item could be that the oven doesn't work and now you got to buy a new oven.
Yeah.
So do those deals fall apart? No, but I think the way that the least painful way to handle it is to give a credit out of closing so that the buyer ends up happy because they get to make the choice of who does the repair or what appliance they get to buy or whatever.
It's typically easier for the seller to just give a credit. And I always recommend from a buyer's agent side, just so you understand that they take that credit because then they can control who does the work. Easier for you as the seller because you don't have to deal with one more thing. And the buyer, again, gets to control their new thing. So that's why, to me, that is often the best resolution versus someone trying to fix it.
And again, in terms of the inspection and the number of days and our response time to the buyer's inspection notice, let's say the big ticket item is a roof. It was damaged in a hailstorm 3 years ago and the buyers got an insurance check, but bought a new car and did not do their roof. Okay, well, the roof still needs to be done and we all get that. But again, the buyer might be a roofer. So maybe he only wants, half of the credit that a person that doesn't have roofing experience or contractors or anything would need. But we need to understand we need those couple of days to understand what actually that roof might cost. Does the whole thing need to be replaced? Does it just need new shingles? What exactly needs to happen? And that is part of that inspection period and our response time to work out the best possible scenario and get you, if you are going to give a credit, that it's a fair credit, not just a Oh, $13,000.
Just a number. Yeah. And I think to me, big ticket can be so subjective, right? You kind of touched on this earlier. But I think something as a seller's agent, what I like to think of too is, will this be a problem for any other buyers we might encounter to the level that it potentially is for this buyer, right? So being able to kind of judge that and be like, well, they really want the floors redone, but like, I don't think every single buyer is going to be requesting that. So maybe, while that can be a costly item, maybe it is something that you're not negotiating so much on because other buyers might, feel differently about it. Again, a roof, that to me is something any buyer's not going to want to buy a home. Again, unless it's maybe priced or there's certain stipulations on that. But
and again, health and safety is different than aesthetic. Like I would like new floors, or the carpet's really gross and dirty and it's got stains. Okay, well, we priced the home accordingly to begin with, that you were going to replace the carpet. Now you want another $5,000 credit for carpet. That is not a health or safety issue. As a seller, you can just say no. That is a big ticket item, but it isn't a health or safety issue. And another buyer might not care as much about it so it's all kind of, as with
there's no hard rules,
right? Yeah,
right? No hard
everything
rules.
is very, very unique, and we tackle it one at a time, and the best possible way for our seller. And as a seller, your tolerance might be different to giving a credit than somebody else, and so we just need to kind of work through it all. But definitely does not mean deal always falls apart. We can work through these things. I think that's it. Do you have anything else?
That's what I have.
Okay, awesome. So inspections and appraisals are easy to get through. We try and give you as much advance warning and preparation as possible so that it's not anxiety producing.
And I think kind of tagging along with that, our biggest recommendation is don't worry about things until you have information in your hand. We do our best to get ahead of things, but then also sometimes you got to try and turn your mind off a little bit and just take it as it comes and know that we can get through it.
Yeah, I'm going to add one last thing, and this is kind of a big thing, but when a seller fills out the property disclosure, remember that is your best line of defense. If there's something wrong with the house, hey, there's, when we bought it, the foundation was failing, but we accepted it because we weren't that worried about it. You should probably write that down in the property disclosure statement.
And when we're pricing a home too, right? Mm-hmm. Honesty really helps us in getting to the right price, right comp, so that we have a successful outcome.
Right. So, definitely be as straight, as forthcoming as possible when you're doing that property's disclosure statement for two reasons. One's that then the buyer knows from the get-go, before they do their inspection, hey, this could be a problem.
Before they write an offer.
Right. And also then we have the most ability of time to maybe even say, hey, we know that there's radon. We haven't had time to take care of it. Let's say it was a rental and it was vacant. Tenants moved out a while ago. Mm-hmm. The radon guy said he couldn't be there for 6 months anyway. So we're going to give you a credit for that. Yep. Like we get even those things we can work out, but the more we know and the more straightforward and forthcoming you are, the easier it is to handle. So
yeah. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks. We'll see you next time.